There are two tropes in media that are honestly very transcoded, but if you headcanon the character as trans, you will have a whole fandom saying you didn't actually listen to their story. And I'm gonna talk about it, even though there's probably better videos explaining. Actually, if you have videos talking about these tropes, show me them. 1. Character pretending to be the opposite sex for blank reason, usually to escape something bad. Now, I'll say that with this trope, it's a bit unrealistic to real-life gender experience, unless someone does relate to them, but I really doubt it. But not everything in a story has to be realistic, I guess. So this trope is usually with women pretending to be men. I think I remember watching someone talk about this trope, but I don't remember which video. But there's some with men too. My first two examples are with Mulan and Viola from She's the Man. Most people know the story for Mulan. She pretends to be a man to get drafted, so her father wouldn't. Now, do I think she's transcoded? Not really. But do trans men make jokes relating to her? Yes. But with this trope, I think it makes sense that trans men would relate. I mean, who else would? It doesn't really happen in day-to-day life. And with Viola from She's the Man, I also don't think she's that transcoded, but trans men jokingly relate to her. Especially with a video I've seen called "I Forced Trans Men to Watch She's the Man." I understand why trans men might relate to the trope, serious or not. Especially with transphobic rhetoric geared to trans men being she's just transitioning to being a man to escape misogyny, which is just gross obviously, but also untrue because being a trans man won't really stop the misogyny. Yes, it's a thing for women, but like, if society views you as a woman, you're getting treated as one. Aka misogyny. Even if a trans man passes really, he will probably still get medical misogyny from doctors. So yeah, that doesn't really work, and no one does that except for in movies. Also, lots of historical trans figures will have their identity erased or not even considered because cis women want their girly pop feminist icon over considering a person from the past was just a trans man. Anyway, there's another character that doesn't fit the rest, and that's Chihiro Fujisaki from Danganronpa. I've seen a lot of gamers confused by his gender first playthrough, and for good reason. Some people might not know the story for him, so I'll explain it. Chihiro dies, and in the middle of the trial, Kayako pauses the trial to go back to the scene of the crime. When they do, she makes a student body check her, and they find a penis. If you're playing the game for the first time, you might be confused and maybe thinking that this game aged like milk, and it kinda does in certain ways NGL. But Chihiro isn't supposed to be trans. His backstory is that he was always effeminate, or at least acted weak, so the other kids bullied him. To escape that bullying, he pretended to be a girl. And in this chapter, he realizes he doesn't want to hide anymore, so he plans to become stronger and stop pretending. And the fandom headcanons his gender as mostly anything, trans masc or trans femme, even non-binary. I understand each one. I mean, the trans masc headcanon makes sense. He won't listen to people bullying him telling him he's a girl, I guess makes sense. And the trans femme headcanon is literally just because it's a weird trope, or a trans misogynistic trope as some people say. And I get this headcanon. The students literally found out he had a penis and immediately went, oh okay, let's stop calling Chihiro a she then. That's insane. Without context either. They only got context to his backstory afterwards, so, yay, it's sorta weird. But there's a lot of people in the fandom who get upset at the trans femme headcanon. They always say, did you listen to his backstory, but I don't think it's fair to act like it's a stupid headcanon. I mean, come on. The fact that he is supposed to just be a cis guy that is weak and feminine, and pretended to be a girl to escape the bullying is such a weird backstory for him. And again, the fact they revealed it with his genitals. You can't act like his gender was written great, because it kinda wasn't. I'm not saying it's the most transphobic shit I've ever seen. I'm just saying that you can't be surprised when trans women relate to him, or finds the backstory strange. 2. A character is born as blank, but their parents are crazy, in a wacky dumb way, or abusive, so they raise the character as the opposite sex. Yeah, I know this is really specific, but I've seen it twice. So first is Dr. Doofenshmirtz. I saw a post, Tumblr screenshot on Pinterest, you know the deal, about a trans headcanon for him. Since his backstory is literally him being forced into dresses as a kid. I have the screenshot right here so you can read it. So obviously, Tumblr users were like, oh, this man is trans, but the Pinterest crowd didn't really agree, and they didn't think it made sense either. Did you even watch the story? He's just a cis man forced to be a girl by his abusive parents. Duh. Okay, I haven't watched it, and I'm not watching it at 4 o'clock in the morning because of this rant. But this shit sounds so transcoded. I'm sorry, but it is. You can't make a character that is forced to be the opposite sex, and expect trans people to not relate to it, or make headcanons about it. Now let me explain why I think it makes sense. He was born at the hospital and has a bow on his head. And before you say, that's cause his parents put it on him. Dr. Doofenshmirtz said, my parents didn't show up to my own birth, so how would the parents be there to put the bow on his head? And he talks about how his voice was high-pitched as a kid, which can happen with cis men obviously, but it's still somehow trans men relate to. And then he talks about not being able to grow facial hair, and trans men can grow facial hair a year, but some trans men start T and only get ass hair first. It's still hard to grow facial hair at all. But that's for trans men who get on T early, right? But Dr. Doofenshmirtz has a whole ass daughter, and his backstories as a young adult show him pretty masculine. So yeah, maybe that disproves it. But that's not really the point of a headcanon. Headcanons aren't meant to be theories. It's just a way to imagine a character. So you can't really disprove a headcanon. And trans men are allowed to relate and headcanon him as a trans man. It's not gonna kill canon. Also, I feel like an intersex headcanon would work for him. IDK if how it'd work, but I feel like, maybe? Anyway, I've also seen this with Mandark from Dexter's Laboratory. He was quite literally assigned female by his parents and he rejected it. His parents still constantly call him a girl's name. That is so transcoded. I'm sorry. You can't say but he's just supposed to be a cis boy who is forced to be a girl. Be so FR with me. I was gonna put some videos of it, but the ones I saw before are gone. I guess it was all the way back in 2023, so it makes sense. Sorry I had to rant about this. It just really pisses me off when people get mad over honestly sensible queer headcanons. Like okay sissy. Anyway, that's all for now. Honestly, I'd like to know of any other characters like these tropes or any tropes similar to these two. I mean, probably the woman hitting on male character is actually a man. Have a great day, bye bye.